What's up, everybody? Nico from South China Morning Post here. It is Friday night in Hong Kong, and I've just got off a conference call announcing Tan Lei and Tang Kai as the main event of 160 in Singapore, August 26th. But I think the bigger news as well is that this is part of a blockbuster double header. They're going to come back the very next morning for 161 in the same arena, and we all know Demetrius Johnson and Adriano Moraes is the main event of that card. We can only imagine that card is going to be absolutely stacked as well. It's the first card on Amazon Prime Video in the US. So a lot to talk about here. And I'm joined by the lovely, always entertaining Tom Taylor. What's up, Tom?
Oh, not much, man. Thank you for calling me lovely, though. That's a great way to start this call.
I could be more descriptive, but we got to get down to business here.
Let's do it,
It's
man.
good to see you again. How are you doing?
Life's good, man. Just covering the one championship news and stuff. As you know, it's always exciting these days. Lots of exciting stuff coming up, including this doubleheader in Singapore, which is going to be a ton of fun. And I hope we can find a way to get there on the ground for that one.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's worth another 7 days in quarantine for me.
Easy.
2 shows. If it was just one, I'd be questioning it. But if you're going to throw 2 shows in 2 days, I'm there. I'll do the prison time. I'll stare out the window again for 7 days, contemplating everything. But it's good. Good to be back with the podcast as well. It's been a while. It's been pretty loose. Sorry, mainly my fault. I've not been too consistent with them. I have been traveling all over the world, of course, and I'm finally back and settling back into normal life in Hong Kong. And I'm in my decrepit hovel here, which you can't really see, but the ceiling is falling in over there. But I just went to the shop down the road earlier, and I've purchased a 2,000 Hong Kong dollar green screen, which will arrive next week. We're going to completely overhaul the setup in my flat. I'm going to make it look a lot more professional than all this random crap in the background. But let's get down to it, though. The big takeaway there, Tom. Double header it looks like. So this is the first time one's ever done this. I think we've had a couple of similarly big-sized events. We had Century, which was 2 cards in one day with a big break between them. Then 1X was sort of like 3 cards or just one after the other. Very long day there. You and I were there in Singapore. We were there in Tokyo as well for Century. So something new for one, and I'm intrigued to see how they do it. It's going to be interesting to see how the mechanics play out, isn't it?
Yeah, I hadn't really considered that. I'd sort of, when I first heard about this, I'd actually heard about this plan for a doubleheader a few weeks ago, but I didn't know any of the details. I assumed they were just going to do 2 in one day again. And it didn't really occur to me that this is the first time they've done it on back-to-back nights. So that's interesting. And as you said, that will provide some new logistical challenges for them. But I think, in a lot of ways, this should be more straightforward than, cramming 3 cards into one day. At least people get a little bit of a break in between. I think it's going to be awesome, though. And I think this new fight they've just announced, Tan Lei and Tonkai, is a perfect fight to kind of kick things off. I know it's the main event, so, it's not really kicking things off. But in terms of like an appetizer for a big debut on a platform like Amazon Prime, doesn't get much better than this fight.
Yeah, we don't know too much else, do we, about the cards? We just know these 2 main events, DJ and Adriano the next day, and Tang Kai, Tan Lei the Friday night. So you've got to imagine, though, Tom, they're going to be absolutely stacking this second card, at least the one on Amazon, because there's plenty at play there. Debut on Amazon, of course. They want to make a splash to the American audience. They put a lot of marketing money behind this move. We all know that. But also, the elephant in the room is the UFC just came to town, didn't they? And they just sold out Singapore Indoor Stadium, 12,000 people. And it, on paper, it wasn't the best card, but it turned out to be what I think is like an all-time great card. Just, everything went perfectly for them. And I think one is going to want to make a statement. Is that fair to say? They're going to want to say, hang on, this is our turf. You can't just come in here and take our turf. And they've had a few empty arena shows before that. My feelings on that. I wasn't a fan of closing off the arena, especially after the momentum that was gained at 1X in March when they had a half capacity crowd. There were still some COVID regulations going on, but now there's no COVID regulations. So the empty arenas did not make sense to me. And we saw what the UFC could do. So one, they're going to have to pull out all the stops, I think, if they want to get a sellout, don't they?
Yeah, man, they definitely need to make a statement, and I guess it's largely due to ego, right? They have to kind of come back and stomp their feet on the ground and show the world that Singapore is our turf. Singapore is where we belong. And I think in a way, as much as this long break between fights sucks, it will kind of benefit One Championship, right? Because if they promoted an event the week after that big UFC show, which, as you said, was just spectacular, the contrast would be kind of tough. The optics would not be great. But this way, people have time to kind of forget about the UFC, forget they were ever in Singapore. We may remember the fights, but who cares where they were? And then by that point, One Championship can come back to the Singapore indoor stadium, kind of reclaim their space. And obviously they have a card in between now in this doubleheader. We've got this 159 in July, but this doubleheader in Singapore, I think, is a great opportunity to kind of remind the combat sports world who the top dog in Singapore is. And yes, they definitely will stack the morning card, the card that will be airing on Prime. That goes without saying, but I'm almost more interested to see what they do with the first card, because there's not quite the same onus to stack that one because it's not debuting on a new platform. But you'd think they'd want to get some momentum going, right? And at least stack that one a little bit, maybe 3 title fights on the second card, 2 on the first, something like that. But it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that first card, I think.
Absolutely. And you and I, we sort of got into some fantasy booking a little bit. And in the article we've just written, go to scmp.com/MMA. You can see it there. All the big news from tonight. We were thinking, which fights are they going to put on this card? We'll get into that in a little minute, but I just want to say good to see some of the regulars in the chat. Dark Sid 33, Alvin, John KL. Good to see you all. Hopefully a few more trundle in. Peter John Alexander there. Good to be back. I'll get through a few comments quickly before we fantasy book the rest of the card. But Dark Sid saying, bro, this one drought is killing me months apart. Come on. Yeah, it's I've been very frustrated as a fan as well as a journalist covering one that just they seem to have blown a little bit of that momentum, like I was saying, and then not just only having empty arena shows, Tom, but then having this drought. We've got like 7 weeks between the last card, which wasn't spectacular, as we discussed on the last show. I think it was myself and Chris. It wasn't the best fight card, let's be honest. And then next one coming up, the Ritter and Big Dash. I'm intrigued by that. Some good fights on that. It's a good card, but I think it's going to be another empty arena show, and it's 7 weeks after that first card. They need to get things going, don't they, Tom? They really need to start building that momentum again.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. It's tough, first of all, as a fan, as you said, when you develop a loyalty to a promotion like One Championship, to suddenly have to go 7 weeks without any fresh fights. The sport moves very quickly. We're always moving on to the next thing, whatever's happening at the time. So when a promotion kind of disappears for that long, I would say that's definitely not a good thing. You risk being forgotten. You risk being lost in the shuffle, and you set yourself up for a more difficult time when you come back. They have a tougher job ahead of this July show than they would have if they'd promoted a few shows in between, I would say, just in terms of marketing and promotion. But yeah, the good news is that come July 22nd, we have a lot to look forward to. We have that big card and then 2 more in August. And it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun for us as journalists too, because we will suddenly have tons to cover again. Right now, we're having to get creative, aren't we, Nick?
We are. Poor old Tom has been banging his head on the table trying to find people to interview, and the poor old PRs at one have been doing the same. But it's difficult when there aren't fights, to actually find people to talk to and to find things to talk about. But things seem to be getting going now, which is good. Another side issue in this sort of topic is that there was a lot of bluster, wasn't there, about one's going to get back on the road this year. They're going to be going to Thailand again, Philippines, Indonesia. Everywhere's opening up now after COVID, and we're still in Singapore, aren't we, Tom? I know they tried to put on a card in Bangkok, but it came to nothing. The plan was for July, and I think that accounts for the gap in the schedule because they couldn't get that sorted out. So a little bit disappointed, Tom. I am that we're maybe not going to Bangkok for this one or something like that. I mean, I know it is. If it's a big doubleheader, it's probably you'd expect maybe Tokyo, but that's impossible right now, I think, still with COVID regulations.
Well, Tokyo is actually, I think Japan is in the process of like opening right now. Maybe not quite to the levels they were open before the pandemic, but certainly compared to the restrictions they've been dealing with in the last few years, they're going to be very much open soon. So hopefully one can get back there. In terms of Thailand, yes, the plan was a card in July. That fell through. I don't know why, but I have heard that there are still plans for a show in Thailand before the end of the year, probably in the last quarter of the year. I hope I'm not offending anybody, revealing anything that I shouldn't have revealed just there. But I have heard that
I'm offended.
Thailand is still in the plans for one championship in 2022. But yeah, it is disappointing that these international shows haven't happened, that the arena still haven't filled back up. But I think a big part of that, and I may be way off here, I'm not a businessman, but I think a big part of that is that one is kind of more of a content creation business than a live event business at this moment, at least. They're about views and social media views and all of these things. So it's really more important for them just to have fights, and have content. It doesn't really matter so much whether there's people in the building, as disappointing as it is.
If I have to watch another bloody video on Twitter of, a fight that happened last year or something, I credit to all the social media team at One who are trying to keep things relevant, but it's tough, isn't it? They haven't got any fights to put out there. If you're just rerunning old things that happened a long time ago, it's not good. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. They need to get things going. I'll just get through a few more comments here. Alvin, good to see Alvin again. Mr. Positivity. Hello, good friends. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Hope you're doing well, Alvin. Have you gentlemen enjoyed UFC 275 and UFC Austin? Such great fighters doing amazing things. Yeah, really enjoyed 275 and UFC Austin. I caught up with it. Again, like with 275, I wasn't expecting much from the Austin card, but it sort of didn't dawn on me that actually, hang on, UFC's back on the road. They're not in the apex anymore with these fight nights. And the crowd there was huge. I think 13,000. And that just helps everything, doesn't it? That's why I think One really needs to get fans back in the building, because it can turn what might be an average card into something very memorable. So that's my take. John KL. Yeah, sometimes I hit the mark. John, good to see John saying double header equals no sleep for you journos. Yes, that's let's think of the logistics there. We're going to be probably at that arena till 11 or 12. Back to the hotel, the good old Bugus.
Yeah, man. Maybe just set up a tent at the arena or something. Spend the night there.
Yeah.
I don't think camping in public, I think that's frowned upon in a place like Singapore.
Yeah,
so
it might be.
Might be out of luck. Yeah.
Because it'll be a very early rise. I think Tokyo Century, we were up at 7, out the door at 7 on the media bus to the arena.
Assuming they want to have
very hungover.
Very hungover. Yeah, that was probably one of the most arduous and taxing days of my professional career. I still get chills sometimes when I think about that. I wake up in a cold sweat, imagining that I'm actually back in Tokyo covering that doubleheader still. But yeah, assuming that they want DJ and Adriano fighting, around 9 or 10 or 11 or something on Amazon Prime, they're going to have to start pretty early if they want to get everything else out of the way by that time.
Yeah, I think 275 started at 5:30, or people were in the door at 5:30, so could be an early rise. Yeah, no sleep for us.
Who needs it?
Yeah, Dark Sid here saying make whole Prime cards title fights. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. The main card, if you just had 5 title fights. Maybe we can talk now a little bit about that. What I mentioned earlier, we did fantasy book the card a little bit in the article. Go check it out, scmp.com/MMA. We suggested maybe we're going to get Arjun Bhullar against Anatoly Malakin, finally, heavyweight title unification. Christian Lee against Okra Yoon for the lightweight title rematch there. Angela Lee against Ham Seo-hee, atomweight title. Superbon and Chingiz Alazov. And then I think I threw another thing out.
Jared Brooks was the other one. Yeah.
I mean, if you do that plus DJ and Adriano, take my money, make that a pay-per-view.
Well, I'm just going to stop you right there. I don't see that happening. I think this, this is definitely an occasion worth celebrating, this first event on Amazon Prime. But something that we must consider is that they're going to be doing these a lot. This is the first of many, right? They're doing one every month, and they're going to want them all to be good. You don't want to put Demetrius Johnson, Jared Brooks, Arjun Bhullar, Angela Lee, Christian Lee all on one card, because then they can't fight again for 4 or 5 months, whatever, right? So I think, a realistic expectation for this debut card on Prime would be 2, maybe 3 title fights spread across MMA, kickboxing, and Muay Thai. It would be great to see 5 MMA title fights or something on one card, but I think at this point that's wishful thinking because they do have future Prime cards to think about. Either way, though, this is going to be a good one.
But I'm going to counter that.
Away, man.
History has told us, Tom, that one do not really think too far down the line. They tend to load up these mega shows to make a statement. We saw it with Century, we saw it with A New Era, and they really struggled the next 2-3 months after those to get cards going. I think they kept a couple of title fights in reserve. And with one, you can always go to your sort of kickboxing, your Muay Thai champions to have a main event. And, they are filling out divisions a bit more, that you have kind of good rivalries that are below the title fights. I think they're going to go all out here. And I say, why not? Let's do it. I will check a few more comments here. Peter saying, I heard a lot of people went to UFC 275 for Zhang Weili. Unfortunately, do you guys understand why? I don't feel like she's a draw. Good fighter, but not a good personality. I mean, I think she is a draw in China, in Asia. Clearly, she's a draw. A lot of people in the arena were Australian, we have to say. And there were a lot of Aussies on the card, especially Jack Della Maddalena, I think his name is, and
Jake
Matthews and Joshua Kulabau, and they all won, which was good. But there is a lot of interest in Weili. She's very, very popular, especially in China, and don't count against. Maybe we can ask anyone who knows how popular is she in Singapore. Let us know in the chat. But I think Weili is a draw. Not in America for sure, not in the West, but the UFC is not just an American company anymore. It's a global international company, and they talked a lot about that after the event, about getting back into their strongholds outside the US. I think Australia is next, and that's it. Yeah, they have stars for different regions. Some of them aren't going to be popular in America. They're going to be huge in Australia. They're going to sell out 55,000 seat stadiums in Melbourne and Adelaide, places like that, or if they ever go to New Zealand again. Anyway, a couple more questions here. DW Travels. I miss Nara MC announcing the fighters before the match. Doc said here, I think they're putting all their energy in the second half and forward with double events. Second half of the year? I don't exactly know. But yeah, they are looking to... This is what happens with one a lot. They tend to go quiet for a bit and then they come back with a bang. We've seen it throughout the last few years. Why is one doing empty arena shows? Says Ichi, UFC just sold at the arena in the morning, right? Yeah, definitely. They can't get away with this now. I mean, but they're going to do another empty arena show by all accounts. It looks like, Tom, with 159, Big Dash and Derrida. I don't know if they're going to have fans for that, but it's not going to be a good look, is it? It wasn't a good look the last few, but now, especially after 275, you just can't say it's because of COVID.
Yeah. I did see someone in the comments, I think it was Dark Sid, actually saying, raising the theory that perhaps they're worried about burning out their Singaporean fans, which is fair. If you're having, 2 cards a month, 1 card a month, especially if they're not all blockbuster spectaculars, you can't expect your fan base to just keep coming back, paying for tickets over and over again. So I guess by, depriving them of that opportunity a couple shows in a row, you can be pretty confident that they'll show up when you need them for a show like this Prime debut or the one the previous night.
Yeah, I think there were some people flew in for 1X. I got that vibe. But that's because you had DJ on the card, you had Angela Lee, you had Stamp Fairtex, you had some very big names, didn't you? And some fan favorites like Sexyama, Shinya Aoki. They're going to have to pull out all the stops again. That's what I'm saying. If they, but yeah, if they're going to keep doing shows in Singapore, I've had this conversation with people in one. I think they need to strip it back. I think they need to go Apex style, find a little studio, maybe get 100 people in there or something, just for a little bit of noise, but scale it back and don't be ashamed to say it's just that. But I think they've maybe pigeonholed themselves a little bit or boxed themselves in by now doing every show as a numbered event instead of having the fun, weird names.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe they can do one kind of name event, a fight night type event at a small studio every month, and then a numbered pay-per-view event in Singapore or in Thailand, you know what I mean, Manila, if they want to get more regular shows going. But I don't think that's the plan from what I've been told for the rest of the year. It's going to be one show a month, a numbered show. So here we are. Yeah, empty arenas are here to stay for at least the next show. Alvin asking about Weili and Yuri Prochazka training at Bangtao. Must have been quite a privilege to see that. Yeah, it was great. It was really honestly cool to just not just see them training, but I was staying about a minute away from the gym, and so were they, not in my house or my villa, but they were in different facilities, and you'd sort of just bump into them around the gym area, at the laundry, things like that, or at the beach or at the cafes. It's just fun, and you sort of get to see the other side of it all, and very, very privileged indeed to have been there. And hopefully we'll go back after this Singapore show and maybe take Mr. Tom Taylor with me to check out Bangtao.
Hell yeah, I'm thinking that's a great idea. If we are in the ground in Singapore, then I think it only makes sense to jet down to Thailand for a little while, at least work on my tan, you know.
Well, if I'm going to be doing a prison sentence again for quarantine, I need to get at least a couple more weeks out of a trip. So that's the plan at the moment. Okra Yoon and Christian Lee asked Aiden, what's going on there? I don't know. I heard that it was, we know it's been agreed to verbally, Tom. You had the interview with Christian. It's all set. I think it's just been delayed. I think they wanted to save it for this Prime Video debut because they see Christian Lee as a big draw in America. I think he popped a pretty good rating. The best rating on the one on TNT series was Christian Lee, and ironically, it was a taped fight. His win over Timothy Nastyukhin. I think that show did the best number. It beat DJ and Eddie's card and the second live card, which had Aung La and Derrida. I think they see Christian potentially maybe tapping into that Asian American audience, and Angela Lee as well can do that. So I expect that fight to be on this card.
Yeah. I actually requested another interview with Christian through the 1PRs a little while back and was kind of asked to hold off. So I think usually when that happens in this field, it's because there's news, in the pipeline, and they don't want to have these fighters doing press right before they're about to announce a matchup or something, because then, the interview is kind of redundant. So I think they're having the media kind of hold off on interviewing some of these people, because a lot of these matchups are close to being finalized. They're just kind of waiting to announce them and figure out where they'll land.
Yeah, fully expect a tidal wave of fight news to be broken, not by us, but by Sports Illustrated. And those bastards. And
you said it, not me.
My new nemesis, Sports Illustrated. They're taking my job, and I'm sure Ariel will get given some news to break. Maybe they could throw some scraps to poor old South China Morning Post.
Yeah, maybe. Give us an undercard fight. Sorry, lead card.
Yeah. Prime card. Card on Prime Video.
Well, if it's the Prime card, that has to be the main card. They can't, call it the Prime card if it's the undercard. Yeah, they're going to have to
Amazon Prime card on Amazon Prime Video, sponsored by Amazon.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, John KL pointing out that Weili's not well known within normal Singapore, but big with the MMA enjoyers. There you go. She is a draw.
And you know what? Even I was going to say before, I would say she's, just in terms of popularity in the States, she's probably just as popular or well known as Glover Teixeira. It's not like he's, Conor McGregor either. There were no really big international stars on that card. I would say Weili, was probably one of the bigger draws, even including the champions that were on that card, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's what you're going to get when they go out to these regions like Australasia and what's it called, like the APAC region. Mm-hmm. They're going to lean on their international stars, aren't they? That aren't going to sell out T-Mobile Arena. You're never going to have a main event in Las Vegas with Zhang Weili or Yuri Prochazka, but they can do big numbers in out in Asia, out in Australia. There's a few who cross over, like Israel Adesanya. Maybe Volk's getting there. I'm not sure. He seems to always be kind of co-main event and things like that. I think he was the main for his zombie fight.
That's right. Yeah,
that was in Jacksonville. But those kind of things, they always stack with 3 title fights, so that becomes the draw itself, the triple header of title fights. But Anyway, let me try and get through more of these comments. Thanks for everyone for commenting. Also, reminder, if you haven't already, please give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps. Things have been a little bit slow lately, understandably, with a lack of one championship events. We want to get the content rolling again. So give us a like, and we're going to get going with the podcast, get be more regular, and the interviews are going to start rolling back up. I mean, I'm now, the tap has been turned off for my UFC content now. I'm no longer at Bang Tao, and there's a bunch of fighters right there. So I actually have 0 UFC contacts, but try and work on that. See if I can get some going. Anyway, Decker says, how sad were you guys when Joanna lost the way she did? I feel the shot was at the back of the head. Dishonorable fighter. I wasn't sad that Joanna lost. I mean, yeah, it did flash through my mind when I watched it. Is that the back of the head? But she's not said one word about that, I don't think. She said straight up, oh, yeah, Weili caught me. Good on her. She deserved it. Tom, did you feel there was anything controversial about that? Were you sad that Joanna lost the way she did?
Well, I mean, I was sad because she's one of my favorite fighters. You know, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that as a journalist, but I've always really enjoyed watching her. She's one of the fighters that really helped me get excited about women's MMA back in the day. So yeah, I've always loved watching her. I interview her quite a bit. So yeah, it was tough to see her get knocked out like that, but I don't think it was to the back of the head. And if it was, it wasn't Weili's fault. It was a spinning attack. You know, Joanna was kind of not doing well anyway, kind of, uncoordinated a little bit, maybe. Like, there was just limbs flying everywhere. You can't fault somebody for accidentally landing on the back of the head in an exchange like that. But I don't really even think it did. I think it kind of landed behind the ear, maybe back here somewhere. Nothing controversial about that. But of course, it's sad watching a legend like Joanna get snuffed and then have to, retire off a bad loss like that.
All right. Well, some kind soul has put our story on tonight's big news in Reddit MMA. Thank you, whoever that was. It is getting some traction there. Always good to see it. If you're a fan of our content and you go on Reddit MMA and you want to help us out, that really, really, really helps us out putting our written articles on Reddit MMA. If it's something interesting and you think it might get people talking, that really helps with my Google algorithm, and then that just opens the floodgates. You know, I can't spam Reddit myself with my own links. I get banned. So yeah, if you like us, help us out. That'll be really cool. Anyway, let's a few more comments. A lot of people commenting. It's really cool to see everyone back here. This is another fight, Tom, I didn't think about. We didn't think. Yeah, Dark Sid pointing out Lineker and Andrade for August. That could be one I feel they'll save for the next card after. That's sort of a main event they'll keep in reserve, is my gut reaction. But Fabricio Andrade is a beast. He'll fight on a day's notice. He's finished his last 3 fights, I think, in the first round or something like that. He's just a monster. Could happen, couldn't it? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, that I would say, just in terms of how the matchup looks on paper, that's the best fight one championship can make right now, just in terms of like pure action between two guys that you could really count on to do something exciting. That's the best fight they can make. But I think you're right. That would be a good fit for the Prime debut just because it's guaranteed excitement, but it's, 2 Brazilian guys that perhaps aren't, super accessible to American fans. I think that fight might be better saved for an event that's on primetime in Asia. Maybe, we could see that even land on the Friday night card, or, a card a few, weeks or months down the road. But yeah, I think that one can happen anytime on any platform, and it's going to be exciting and people will watch. So you don't need to put that one on the Prime Video debut, I don't think.
JD Smith here saying, how's one affording these events without the gate? I think without having fans in the arena, it actually saves them a ton of money. So that's why they're doing it. I think you don't have to pay tax on ticket sales and things like that. You don't have to hire security. There's a lot of money goes into producing an event, Tom, I think, with people there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know the logistics of promoting an MMA event, and I hope I never do, because if I become a promoter, I will be a huge failure. But yeah, I've heard that too.
All right. Esther also helping us out here with the Zhang Weili question. Is she a draw? Esther Liu says, I was at UFC 275. There were a lot of people from China and Macau that flew in just to see Weili fight. Crowd went crazy when Weili walked out and won. Should they have made Weili the main event? I think Esther, just because there was no title on the line, I guess they couldn't do that. And it didn't need to be the main event. I think personally, I would have liked to see it be 5 rounds, but it didn't go 5 rounds. It went to 1.5 rounds. But yeah, I think it's tough to put a fight like that as the main event when there's no title on the line. I think if Weili had the belt, she would have definitely been the main event in Singapore if she'd beaten Rose in Madison Square Garden in the rematch. But yeah, once she lost that rematch, she was still always going to be on the Singapore card, and there was no shame being third from the top. But thanks for filling us in on that with that info. Looks like Weili's a draw, everyone. For all the haters out there.
Now we know.
Ichi saying Yoshiki Nagahara jumped ship from One to Rise and is fighting July 31st against Uka Sasaki. Have you heard other One fighters that left the organization recently? Well, our main man, Kiyomi Matsushima, was on road to UFC before UFC 275, and he won. So he's still in that tournament. I think he broke his foot, though, so I'm not sure he'll make it to his semi-final. But that was an intriguing one for me to see him go. I don't know what happened with his contract or whatever, because he fought Gary Tonin 2020, 2021, I can't remember. Yeah, I don't know many others who are jumping ship at the moment. Have you thought of anyone, Tom?
No, I mean, there's always people kind of quietly leaving the organization, just contracts not being renewed and stuff. But yeah, no, I haven't heard of anyone off the top of my head. I think, didn't you publish something a few months ago about a couple of people parting ways with one, or was that a hallucination?
But I think I'm not seeing them turn up anywhere else. One of them was our beloved last Viking, Thomas Namo.
He really was the last Viking. There's not going to be any more Vikings in one after this. Yeah,
not at the moment. But no, I don't know about any of the others. John asking about is Rahul Raju fighting against him. I don't know.
We're all wondering, man. We're all wondering. Get in line. I mean, it's. Don't you live next door to him, John? He's in Singapore. Just go bang on his door.
Yeah. What's the latest with Razor Ramona? Razor. We're trying to get this nickname going, by the way. Razor Ramona Pasquale. I think she's in Phuket. Yeah, or she definitely was. I'm not sure how long she's staying, but she went to check out Bang Tao after the fight in Singapore. Not sure if she's training or just on holiday, but yeah, it's tough, isn't it? 2 losses now in the UFC for her. Be worried that maybe they cut her. I don't know. Do you think they might give her a 3rd fight, Tom?
I think it really depends on their plans for the Asian market right now. If they're really, if the Singapore show was sort of a harbinger for more Asian shows and they're really planning to push back into Asia, then they're going to need lots of fighters that live in Asia that Asian fans are familiar with. In that case, they may decide that she's still valuable to them. If not, yeah, I mean, it could be the end of the road, but you're only ever a few wins from a UFC contract these days, right? So if she were to be released, she could go pick up a couple of wins in Invicta or wherever else and be right back here.
Oh, look who is here.
Yeah, I thought it was feeling a little sexy in here.
Dylan Bowker, who was also on the call a bit earlier. Dylan, if you want to jump in here, we'd love to have you. So let me know. I'll send you the link. If you want, feel free. WhatsApping you. I don't know if you're doing something else that's more important than this, but if not, there it is. Come chat, come hang out. Anyway, Decker, I'm going to give this question to you, Tom, briefly, and put you on the screen while I get another dragon water. But Decker says, I'm sorry, I don't like Weili's style. She's too brutish and not technical. It would be better story if Joanna would fight Esparza, in my opinion. What do you make of that? They had the inbuilt storyline, didn't they? Joanna beat Esparza to win the title years ago. Are you upset that we're not getting that rematch? Or are you excited to see Weili against Esparza, which looks like the way the UFC are going?
Yeah, it's complicated, right? Well, first and foremost, I of course have to disagree. I think Weili's very technical. maybe a little bit brutish, but lots of great fighters are brutish. Look at Paulo Costa. He's definitely brutish, always plodding forward, not super concerned about defense, and he's one of the most popular and exciting fighters in the middleweight division. Not that Weili has all that much in common with him, but she's also kind of a far for her weight class. She may be brutal too, but she's brutish too, but she's definitely technical, and she's proved that in a lot of her recent fights. Would it have been better if Joanna won and got the title shot against Esparza? Maybe, but is that really that good of a storyline? I mean, Esparza is not exactly the most popular champion in the world right now. A lot of people don't even believe she deserves the title after that close fight with Rose. First time around, Joanna absolutely whooped her. That was a mugging. It should have been illegal. I don't need to see that fight again. Even years later when Carla is presumably better and Joanna is, maybe kind of on the way out, that fight to me was not super interesting just because I feel like I know what happens in that one. Weili versus Esparza, though, that's a fresh matchup, an interesting matchup. And I think fresh matchups are a very good thing in the strawweight division these days because we've spent the last, 5, 6, 7 years watching Rose and Weili and Joanna and Jessica Andrade fight each other forever. Now we have Carla, a new champion, a fresh face, kind of in the top 5, and, all these new matchups available for her, like Weili. So I think this is a great fight. I hope it happens. I hope there's no funny business with the, Marina getting the next shot ahead of Weili. I think Weili deserves it. And I think if that fight is made, it seems pretty obvious to me that she's going to beat Carla. I think she's better than her everywhere. And that's the end of my rant.
All right. I missed most of that, but
that wasn't very good.
I'm sure it was. Don't do yourself down. Anyway, some more comments to get through.
Let's do it.
Dark Sid says, I want to see the rematch with Christian and Oak, but what's up with Daggy, the real uncrowned king? LOL. There's no way he's sitting around for that title fight. Who could they put him against? That is a good question. You've still got that Daggy Eddie thing out there, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
If Eddie Alvarez ever comes back. But I think if Eddie comes back, and I do think it's going to be on this Amazon card, I think it'll be against Yuri Lapkus, the rematch. And I think Eddie will win that, and then he's the next contender for the winner of Oak and Christian. That's the way I see.
Vince McMahon couldn't have written it better, man. That would be a pretty perfect outcome for Eddie, for one championship, for the winner of the Christian and Oak Rayun fight. That's the biggest fight they can make in the lightweight division right now, certainly him.
And they need to pull the trigger on Eddie now.
Yeah,
with his age, if he's going to ever fight for the title or win the title in one, it needs to be within the next year, I think. And he's got history with both men. I think, he lost to Oak Rayun, shock. And he's had that inbuilt storyline with Christian. They were talking about that fight for the last couple of years before Eddie lost again, and then Christian lost the title. So, yeah, I think that's a good.
At a certain point, I feel like they should almost just kind of suck it up and be like, this is Eddie's last chance. We're doing this because he's a legend. Even though he doesn't deserve it, we're giving him the shot. Here's the big fight that you've all been asking for. It may take some credibility away from their matchmaking, but people want to see that fight. Christian and Oak Rayun, I'm sure, want that fight. That's a big fight for either guy. I think they have to make it. And if you give Eddie another fight in the meantime, you risk losing that fight.
Dylan Bowker has informed me he will not be joining us. Sadly.
Wow. Okay.
I'm hurt.
I'm hurt too.
Yeah, he's got an interview soon though, so
that's a pretty good excuse, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. But you're always welcome, Dylan. Always welcome. Anyways, Peter John Alexander says, do you guys want the UFC to go back to Singapore, or is it better for one to dominate the region? I think they will go back. It was a roaring success, but one's going to have to find ways to counter that to maybe make the UFC not want to go back. Like we were saying at the top of the show, one's going to have to try and reclaim that turf, but the UFC is always going to kind of have other places to go to, other strongholds. They still want to break into Korea. That kind of got put on hold. Australia, they will definitely go back there next for their. I think they'll do their next big pay-per-view outside the US will be in Australia or New Zealand. I imagine they'll do one Asia pay-per-view a year now, maybe something like that. Maybe they definitely want to go to China, but that's going to not happen for a long time. So it could be Singapore gets another one next year. Otherwise, I maybe see it being rotated in and out, and maybe getting a fight night card, something like that. And they'll still maybe stack that up quite nicely and probably sell out. But one's got a huge fight on their hands to really reestablish themselves in Singapore. And, at the same time, they need to go and reopen their markets in Thailand, like we were saying, in the Philippines. So a lot of work for one to do. Daston Malik saying Tan Lei versus Kai Tang. What are your predictions? Tom, I will ask you first.
Yeah, that's an awesome fight. I think both guys have proven that they're capable of finishing fights just like in the blink of an eye. And for that reason, it's hard to make confident predictions for fights like this. But I do think, gun to my head, I will obviously pick the champion. He's proven himself. He's fought better guys. I would say he has the more impressive wins, probably has the edge in firepower. He's shown that he's got, great grappling down to match that firepower. The only X factor for me in this matchup, and I hope Tan Lei doesn't hear this, I don't want to offend him, is his age, right? He's definitely in his prime right now, but he is 36 going on 37, and he hasn't shown any signs at all of decay, so to speak, right? It doesn't look like he's on the way out, but you just don't know when fighters start to get to that age, right? Sometimes it happens, in the span of one fight. They look great in one fight, and then the next fight, they don't. And then from there, it's just sort of a slippery slope, snowball effect where they look worse and worse, and suddenly we're all calling for their retirement. I hope that doesn't happen with Tan Lei this fight. I really don't think it will, but that age is always going to be just a little question mark ahead of his fights. But presuming that he's still in top form, I think he should walk away with the title in this one.
Well, yeah, that came up, didn't it, in the call? Straight off the bat, Tang Kai just kind of threw out a little bit of trash talk. He was saying, I got the quotes here. I respect him a lot, but he's also 36 years old, and I think he should really be considering retirement. And I think this could be his retirement fight, maybe. He has a beautiful family, but after this one, he should go back to them and have a normal life, which Tan Lei chuckled at and laughed. I asked him about it. I haven't transcribed what he said, but the gist of it was like, well, I do have a beautiful family. He did say that, and I spend a lot of time with them. But he said, yeah, I'm 36, but still up here. I'm in my 20s, and he said he's still got about 5 years. He thinks he'll be at the top, and he did miss about 2-3 years during that pandemic. After he won the belt, didn't defend it for a year and a half. Was it? Maybe it kept getting delayed. So I don't know if that helps. Maybe it helps, but I don't think age is an issue. You and I saw Tan Lei in Singapore, Tom, in person, and the dude is in phenomenal shape.
Yeah, he definitely looked younger than both of us. Probably because he doesn't, he's not a binge drinking lunatic like we are. But yes. yeah, he looked like he's in the prime of his fighting life for sure.
Don't worry about Tan Lei. Yeah, if you ask me now who I think is going to win, I think Tan Lei is going to win. But it's an interesting fight, and I wasn't expecting to see this fight. I was expecting Kim Jae-young to fight Tan Lei, but Kim lost to Tang Kai, obviously. He was pretty brave of him to put that title shot on the line. But I think it'll be a good fight. Yeah, Tan Lei also said it's not going to end quickly, but it won't go the full distance. He said, I want to take it into the 4th or 5th round. I want him to feel the championship rounds, and I want him to feel like he doesn't belong here with the champ. Stone cold from Tang Kai. I got chills there. Sorry, from Tan Lei. Anyways, a bunch more comments here. So thank you everyone for joining and asking questions. We'll probably do another 15 minutes just because it's knocking on midnight here, and it's Friday night. I got things to do. I don't. I'm lying. I have no friends.
That's not true. You got a lot of friends right here, man.
Yes, in the chat.
Yeah.
Give us a like if you are my friend. Yeah. All right. Peter says, do you and Nick have Amazon Prime? It seems expensive just to watch one. I think I get it because I'm a Prime subscriber. I forgot to cancel my actual. Yeah, I should do that, to be honest. When I was back in England for 3 months, I got stuck there earlier this year. Back in a Prime subscription because I was ordering Christmas presents, and then I ordered a bunch of gear to take to Singapore because I didn't have any of my camera stuff. I didn't think I'd be stuck in the UK. So I had to get a bunch of cables and microphones and things to go to Singapore for 1X. So I need to cancel that subscription, but maybe I won't now, Tom. Maybe I'll keep my Amazon Prime subscription so I can watch 161 and watch this stacked card. I don't know, but actually, no, I'm going to probably be there. So,
well, you may want it for future cards, right?
Yeah,
you're
who knows?
For. Yeah, I have Amazon Prime for the same reason, because I got the Prime like subscription service to get the faster deliveries and stuff, and it's definitely. Yeah, it's a little pricey, but there are other perks included. But I'm not here to stump for a major corporation. Certainly not Amazon. If you don't want to subscribe, then you certainly don't have to. But in Canada, I think now this is going to be the only way to watch a lot of these one championship fights. In the past, even the ones that were on Bleacher Report in the States, we could watch on YouTube for free. So for me, at least, I think this is my only option now. If I want to catch fights like Adriano versus DJ2. I'm going to have to tune in on Prime. And yeah, as I said, thankfully I have a subscription already, so nothing really changes for me. I watch a lot of stuff on there anyway, so it's all good for me, but I certainly understand why some people maybe would have some reluctance to add a new subscription service to their roster, because most people these days already have a bunch of them, right? There's so many of them these days. So yeah, I understand the pushback, but I'm excited to watch One Championship on Prime Video for sure.
Yeah, like you say, Tom, there's a bunch of other stuff on there, and I think they have a huge subscription base in America and Canada, I guess. So that's a real selling point for them. That's why they did the deal. They can potentially get in front of a lot of eyeballs. Oh, I said it, didn't I? The word potential, potential viewers.
When you put potential in front of it, it's not a lie, right? The cap is the population of the planet. So it's, yeah.
Ichi saying anything going on with Arjun Bhullar? Well, yeah, we think he'll be on this card. They've signed for that fight. They've agreed it. It was going to headline July Bangkok. So no reason to think it's not going to now headline. Not headline, but it's not going to be on this show. And of course, one has seemingly just dropped this, or the Singapore has dropped this no Russians can compete thing, because Big Dash is headlining the 159 card this month. So unless Vitaly Big Dash has denounced his Russian citizenship, and I don't think he has, because I've seen some of his Instagram posts or his Instagram stories, and he seems to be very pro the situation in Ukraine. I think.
Yikes!
Yes.
All right.
We can't call it a war, Tom. It's a special military operation or something.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I hope I haven't got that wrong and completely defamed him, but I think that is it. Allegedly, that is.
Yeah.
Potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we think that fight will be on there, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for a while there, Chatri had said to you that everything was squared away with Arjun. The contract dispute was in the rear view. And then there was a couple of weeks after that where we didn't really hear anything from Arjun. And I was kind of thinking, maybe that was One Championship sort of posturing, acting like things are squared away, maybe trying to strip a little bit of negotiating power away from Arjun Bhullar and CAA. But then a couple of weeks after that, Arjun finally came out and announced himself that he has a new contract. He's happy with it. Things seem to be all good between the two parties. So at this point, it seems like it's just a question of finding the right date, the right setting for that fight. The variable before was the whole deal with the Singaporean government and the inability of Russian people to enter the country because of the situation in Ukraine right now. But as Nick said, that seems to be squared away because they have Vitaly Big Dash flying in next month. So presumably that means that Anatoly Malikin is all good to fight in Singapore as well.
All right, Peter Lee saying, why can't we all just get along? Both promotions can coexist.
Man. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Yeah.
There's a song about that.
Yeah, they can both put on shows in Singapore, but for one, it's like if the UFC comes here this month, there's no way we can do a show this month because, I mean, most people who would come and watch us are going to go to that UFC show and they're going to pay 2-3 times the price for it. They're not going to then shell out a ticket for one, are they, the week after? So one's going to have to be very conscious of that, and they're going to have to plan around that. And they have to make sure if the UFC comes to town, they're doing a big show somewhere else. I think they can. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's the key, I think, right? Is just like if the UFC is coming to Singapore, just kind of like concede the space to them for the weekend and go do a huge event in Bangkok or something, or Manila, right? And as you said before, Nick, I mean, one will really benefit from the fact that, I mean, when the UFC comes to Singapore, it always looks bad for one championship, right? It's like this big, massive organizations coming in and stomping all around and pissing all over the yard and, you know, conquering this turf. But the fact is, the UFC only comes to Singapore once every few years, you know, and that was before the pandemic. They may come even less now just because it's difficult to move people around these days. So one championship is not going to have to worry about the UFC in Singapore again for probably at least a year. And that's conservative, I would say. So they can just relax now, go back to doing what they were doing. I really don't think the UFC is going to be that much competition for one in Asia, just because they're not there that often. And when they are there, they're moving from country to country. These two organizations aren't going to, you know, cross paths that often.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So many comments. So I guess we'll just keep.
This is great, though, man. It's a
down.
good problem to have.
Great problem to have. Thank you, everyone, for interacting. And if I didn't mention already, please give us a like and a subscribe. All the details there in the yellow thing down the bottom. Decker saying, can Marina Rodriguez beat Weili? I hope so. Marina is the better version of Joanna, and Weili had a hard time with Joanna, so she can beat her? Question mark. I don't know how that one would go. She's a lot taller, isn't she?
Yeah. Decker, I think you should fight Weili, man. It sounds like you got beef with her. I mean, I think Weili right now is, you know, other than Rose, the best fighter in the division. And I think, you know, depending on the night and the performances they both have, she's probably better than Rose on a lot of nights. But having said that, she could lose to anybody in the division. She could lose to Carla in her next fight. I'd be very surprised if that happens. But she could certainly lose to Carla. She could lose to Marina. I think both of those matchups are kind of favorable for her because she kind of has an answer to both women's strengths, right? You know, when Carla looks to wrestle, I think she can stop the takedown and just turn it into like a nasty boxing match and just box her up, you know, and kick her a bunch. And then against Marina, I think she has the grappling to kind of counteract that striking that Marina has. We've seen Marina struggle a bit with the wrestling in the past. So I think Weili has kind of answers for both women, but I think she could also lose to both women, and it wouldn't be all that crazy to see that happen. So yes, it can happen. You may, you know, your wish may be granted, Decker. Your prayers may be answered. Weili could lose soon, but we'll just have to.
Well, in Decker's defense, because Peter has called him out here, saying, "Why are you so obsessed with Weili?" Decker says, "With all due respect, I don't like her because she's overrated and getting unnecessary hype. Like Shevchenko said, she's good but not elite."
I just don't understand how you can say that. I mean, she was just the champion and she's beat everybody that she's fought with the exception of Rose, who the second time they fought, it was, you know, as close as fights get. She's proven herself, in my opinion, as one of the top two women in the division, but you don't have to like everybody.
And I would say the last two fights she's had, she's improved a lot in and Joanna said as well, I didn't expect her to be so strong. And look, I saw it up close. I saw her training with Frank Hickman and George Hickman and Josh Hinger and Alex Shield at Bangtao Muay Thai MMA, and they drilled her. They got her. She improved so much in those 2 months, you wouldn't believe, because those coaches are world class. And she was obviously training with Henry Cejudo before that. We don't need to mention how good he is. So she's improved a lot, and I think she is definitely now a different fighter to the one who lost the title to Rose. She's a different fighter to the one who won the title. So I think, yeah, she is elite now. I think maybe there were some holes in her game when she won the belt. I think she's covered those up now. We'll see, because Carla, you don't get better. You know, she's obviously got the wrestling pedigree. So we're going to see if Weili can live with that. Anyway, more questions. Ong. What's up, Ong? Saying, did you see Henry Hoop's recent post about Aung La? I did not. What happened there? Maybe I can.
Yeah, let's go see it.
Have a little look at Instagram. I can bring it up on screen here. Henry Hooft. Oh, man, always love seeing Henry around. The man travels a lot, you know. He's a very good coach, you know. Always supporting his fighters. I'm trying to find this Aung La post. Let us know, Ong. Is it this one?
Oh, it's the one. Yeah, I see it here. This is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Let's get it on screen. Okay. Share screen. Bear with me, people, while I remember how to use this program. Chrome tab, Henry Hooft. Share tab audio. Okay. Here
Here
we go. So
It's just footage from his previous visits to Myanmar.
yeah,
You know,
basically, if you didn't know, Aung La Nsang is like God in Myanmar. He is the most famous person, I think, in that country, and that's not an understatement or overstatement. That is, he's bigger than Cristiano Ronaldo is in Portugal. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you talk about population and then social media numbers, relatively,
yeah, he has the support of the whole country, man. It's amazing. Yeah, you can only imagine what it's like for him too to be in the States, you know, watching everything that's happening back home. It's a tough situation for him. But you know, people over there absolutely love him, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, and if it weren't for a certain man named Renata Ritter, I think Aung La would still have at least one belt, maybe both of them. So, but yeah, we've got to give props to RDR. He is the real deal. I think De Ritter is one of the fighters who you could see that, you know, don't want to knock one down, but you know, how many fighters in one could walk into UFC and maybe win belts? There are some. I think De Ritter is one I would really be interested to see how he would do in UFC.
Definitely.
Yeah, there are others, I'm sure. I'm trying to think now. Of course, we have. I think Adriano Moraes would be spectacular.
John Lineker, we know. Yeah,
John Lineker. I'm trying to think of others. That's a good debate, isn't it?
It is. It's a classic debate, man. We could spend all night on that.
I think Jared Brooks, the UFC missed an absolute trick with him. Joshua Pacquiao is very good, I think. I'm interested in that fight, Jared and Joshua, to see who wins.
That's a really good fight.
But UFC doesn't have a strawweight division. Who else? Tan Lei again. I don't know why the UFC whiffed on him. He was on Ultimate Fighter. Not sure was he on Contender Series as well, but he was a champion LFA. I think he would be very, very good in UFC as well. This is it. I think what I like about one is it sort of provides a home for people who have been overlooked, especially in the UFC, and they now get to go and prove how good they are. And you see what drives people like Tang Lei is that, and Jared Brooks. And anyway, I'm going off track, going on tangent.
It's all right,
here.
Man.
Dylan,
love a good tangent.
Yeah, I love a tangent. SG here. Nick looking like a young Hangman Page, readying for Forbidden Door.
I don't know what that means.
That means a lot to me. I was just watching the Go Home show, Dylan, of AEW Dynamite today, ahead of Sunday's pay-per-view Forbidden Door, which is AEW against New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh, nice.
And Hangman Page, yeah. I do model myself on him, I would say, definitely.
Nice, man. It's good to have role models.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, Peter Lee. Valentina also over Edge, you must be on your mind. I think that he's having his own little debate with Decker in the chat. I'll leave them to it.
You guys be nice to each other.
Yeah. Doc Sid, 33. No way Amazon Prime deal is super affordable, in my opinion, for an MMA event. It's like $15 a month or $120 a year. It's $15 for an event compared to pay-per-view price. Plus, you can use it for other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you criticizing it or praising it?
No, I think he's saying it's a good thing. It's cheaper than.
It's like no way, Amazon Prime deal is super. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I have like a lot of ethical concerns about just like campaigning for Amazon right now, but I think Amazon Prime is a pretty great little service, and I already have it for a bunch of reasons. I watch a lot of stuff on there. The fact that now I just get to watch one championship on there as a bonus, nothing changes for me. As a previous subscriber, I think it's pretty sweet. But what do I know? Not much.
Bunch more stuff from Decker and Pete. I'll leave them to it. Alvin, will you gentlemen be able to go to the next one? We hope so. If they have fans,
not the next one.
not the next one, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, these ones in August. We're there, hopefully. The last one was an incredible experience. Very, very. Wish I wasn't so jet lagged. I'll be fresh this time. You're still going to be messed up, Tom. But
Well, I'll try to get there a little earlier this time. I didn't give myself enough time last time. I think,
yeah,
I sort of out of practice traveling to Asia during the pandemic and forgot how taxing that Pan Pacific flight is. But man, it took us like 5 or 6 days to start feeling normal finally. And then by that point, it was time to leave.
yeah, I was not very human that week, but I will be obviously coming from Hong Kong this time, so I'll be much fresher, and that will be a very welcome thing for me. All right. Who we got here? Ken Rather is asking, what's the quarantine situation like in Singapore? Does it make UFC or One have a hard time putting on events? Well, Ken, there are now no restrictions. Absolutely none. When we went in March, I think we had to do a PCR test before we flew, and then we had to get like special agreement, whatever it was called, the travel lane, and then we had to do daily rapid tests.
Yeah.
But wasn't too bad, and we had to wear masks at the arena, which sucked. When you're interviewing fighters, and
everything closed at 10:30. That was kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Now everything's open.
In fact,
I stopped off there on my way back on the way to Hong Kong from Thailand, and had a night out, and it was pretty much business as usual. Didn't have to wear masks, I think. Can't really remember. No PCR tests like that. That was good. Sorry, Tom, cut you off there.
I was just gonna say, I think it was actually just coincidentally the day we left that Singapore changed their rules, and everything that had been closed, bars and restaurants were closing at 10:30, and the day we left, they went back to the original curfew, which is like 2 or 3 in the morning, and they dropped the outdoor mask rules and stuff. We just kind of missed that sweet spot, unfortunately, but next time.
Kianush Naderi asking if Amir Alekbar is fighting on 160. I don't know. They have been kind of pushing him a little bit on their socials, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him there. But then again, who knows? Because I spoke to Shannon Wurachai in Thailand and his girlfriend, and I did an interview with Shannon, and then I saw One was kind of pushing him again on the socials, and I said, "Oh, it looks great. Looks like One's gonna get Shannon a fight again," because they're putting him on their Instagram and their Twitter, and then they were like, "Oh no, they always do stuff with Shannon on there," and he hasn't had a fight for about 2 years. So if you're listening, please book Shannon Wurachai. He needs a fight. He wants a fight. He's ready. Trust me, he's ready. All right. John KL asking, any news about the next round of Road to UFC fights? No idea, John. No idea. I think it'll be later this year. But that's interesting. Are they going to go back to Singapore for that, Tom?
I don't think so. That's kind of what I was wondering when I first saw that announced. But I assume they'll just finish it up wherever they are, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. I actually have no idea. But that was a question I had too, because I assume they don't have any other plans for Asia for the next 6 months at least. And it doesn't make sense to just go back to Singapore or something to do these, unless they do them at that facility they have in China or something. I assume they'll happen at the Apex.
Well, they're not going to China.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? Like they just don't have any options.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a good question, and maybe they are going to come back to Singapore soon. Maybe One are going to have to deal with that. All right. Ichi saying Akiyama has said in an interview he really wants One to come to South Korea. Any news about One potentially coming to South Korea? No news. Just from what Chatri said, I think he told us, Tom, when we did that one-on-one with him in Singapore, he said South Korea is on the menu for them. They really want to do that. But yeah, the proof is there. They haven't left Singapore yet. I thought we were going to be talking about Thailand already. And then Manila's open again. Philippines is open. I thought we'd already be on the road with One. They have not. So I think South Korea will be a way away. They need to reestablish themselves first in their core markets, which are Bangkok, Manila, Jakarta, Tokyo,
KL.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect South Korea until next year if they ever go there.
Yeah.
I expect the UFC will be back there before One. Ong says it seems like Aung La's fighting soon. I haven't heard anything. I think Yushin Okami and Aung La makes sense still. maybe that'll be on the card. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that landing on the first Prime card.
Yeah.
I think Aung La, he's known for being the big superstar in Myanmar, but I think he has actually kind of, developed a nice little following in the States too, just because he's lived there for so long. So I think that would be a good move.
Is Victoria Lee fighting soon? Asked Ernesto. Don't have any details. If Christians fighting, they tend not to fight on the same card, the Lees, because they like to support each other.
I think she'll be fighting soon, and I think her next fight will be a division up at strawweight rather than atomweight.
Yeah, and it makes sense, doesn't it, to put her on an Amazon card? So yeah, but I think it'll be this one.
I think they're gonna. I've heard that she's planning on moving up to strawweight at some point, whether it's this fight or the next one. And I think probably, all roads lead to Victoria versus Wonder Girl at some point. I think that's a fight they're hoping to make in that division.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Peter asking, will there be fight companions for one? I've seen some of the. We do fight companions pretty much every event. But it's been tough the last few months because we were actually at 1X in Singapore, so we couldn't really do one from the arena. And then it was a little bit difficult with Thailand. I had very bad internet. I'm fully expecting for 159. We'll bring back the fight companion. Don't you worry, Peter. They are fun. I do enjoy them. I've also lost a few people who jump on them, so it's kind of difficult. If it's just me and Tom, we've also got to write stuff for the website, so that does take up some of our time. But we'll try and get the gang back together for sure for 159, and then 160, 161 might be difficult again because if Tom and I are there, it's difficult. But who knows? Maybe I can throw some money at some people to do it for me. Anyway, newcomers are dominating ones, heavyweight and lightweight. There you go. Nesto. One has a huge roster with multiple sports. They just have fights every other week. Let's go. Yeah, I would like to see one do shows every 2 weeks. I think have a numbered event, and then, like I was saying earlier, a scaled back fight night type thing. In a studio, if you're going to keep doing stuff in Singapore. They have a lot of fighters who need fights. They've got a big backlog of people who haven't fought in a year, 2 years, some of them. Anyway, Dark Sid says, July card is filler, LOL. It's not the greatest card on paper, but sometimes it doesn't need to be. One usually deliver. I think the last one didn't deliver, the Tawanshai Larson main event. Inexplicably getting rid of that Jared Brooks main event. Pasha was weird, stupid. That was the first time I've watched a one card and really thought, this is just disappointing. And, the fights didn't really either stand out as well. Is that unfair criticism, Tom?
I think that's fair. That was the one with the Fabricio fight, right? Where
that was great.
There was a few kind of redeeming moments on that card for sure. But yeah, I agree.
There were no good fights that memorable stuck out.
Yeah. It definitely was fairly forgettable.
Good finishes. There's always good finishes in one, because you have Muay Thai and 4-ounce gloves. You always get finishes, which is a good thing with one. But
I wouldn't say the next one's filler necessarily, though. It's not like an all-time great card. We're not going to be comparing it to 1X or these other big cards they've done over the last few years. But the main event's good, I'd say. It's maybe not the most competitive fight. I think De Ridder should win that pretty easily, but still like a good fight between the champion and the guy who obviously deserves the title shot. And there's some other cool fights on there. Co-main event, that Muay Thai title fight, I think a lot of people agree that that's perhaps not the best matchup for Janet Todd right now, but we don't have to get into that. But then there's some other cool things on the bill too, right? We've got Leah Bivens, who I just interviewed, making her debut in MMA. Jessica Khan, who's one of their new submission grappling stars, making her debut on that. Ariel Sexton, my man from Costa Rica, he's coming back after like a 3-year hiatus. Show people, what he's all about again. He's awesome to watch, man. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's a cool guy. I can't wait to see him back. I had kind of, started to assume that he was just done fighting, because he fought Amir Khan like 3 years ago or something and won. And I think he broke his arm or something afterwards and then just disappeared off the face of the earth. I assumed he just went off to, somewhere in Costa Rica and was just surfing on a beach somewhere, and we'd never hear from him again. But he's back, and he's one of the best lightweights in one championship. So that's cool.
There was another dude like that. I can't remember his name now, who also was a really good lightweight there, and then he disappeared. He had a weird medical condition.
Low in Tinanis.
Yeah.
But he came back. He came back like last year or something.
Yeah,
right? And fought Gafarov. Yeah.
Anyway. Dark Sid again. No restrictions and weed is legal in Thailand. Bro, leave HK and set up in Phuket. I have considered it. I am considering it.
I'm considering it too.
Yeah, watch this space. It's a lot of balls in the air, personally and professionally, with me. So
we may both be living in Phuket on a beach somewhere in the in the next 6 months. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, it is a difficult situation right now. I can't lie. In Hong Kong, having to do 7 days quarantine whenever you go anywhere else, it is really, really tough. People, we need to see our families. We need to travel. We need to broaden our minds. Hong Kong is quite a claustrophobic city. Everyone's on top of each other, and it's not been a fun few years here. So, if things continue like that, I may have to take your advice, Dark Sid, on a couple of those things there. I can't confirm all three of those, but anyway, don't get me started on Janet Todd. He says, "Well, do you want to talk about Janet Todd?" Or
let's do it, man.
Yeah. So
let me come out and
Tom, you start. Yeah.
I just want to leap to her defense, man. I think everyone is acting like she's afraid to fight Anissa Meksen. I think that's insane. She's a professional fighter. Of course, she's not afraid to fight anybody. I think for whatever reason, one championship seems to have other plans for both of them right now. But yeah, I don't think the blame for this weird situation with Anissa should fall on Janet's shoulders. She's not the person making the decisions here. She may have some input, but she's, just accepting the matchups that are offered to her. And the other thing too is that every time she wins, presuming she gets this interim Muay Thai title when she fights Lara Fernandez next month, she becomes just a bigger name and a more valuable opponent for Anissa. And that fight gets bigger and bigger, and there's more and more heat between them. So I assume this will be the last Janet Todd fight we see where Anissa Meksen is not the opponent. Because I think if Janet wins this fight, there's just nothing else they can do. The only alternative at that point would be releasing Anissa and letting her go fight somewhere else, which is not going to happen, I don't think. So that's my take. It sucks that fight hasn't been made. This Lara Fernandez Janet Todd fight is definitely a unsatisfactory consolation prize, I would say, but I don't think it's fair to blame Janet Todd, and it bums me out to see people piling on her, because this is definitely not her fault, I don't think.
All right. So gonna wrap it up pretty soon. We have gone over. There's still a few questions there, so I don't want to. I really appreciate everyone asking questions and interacting. It's pretty humbling, given we've not really done any of these for a while. Last 6 months I've been away. So it is so cool to see everyone still tuning in and asking questions and interacting. Trying to see anything we can ask last. I guess you sort of answered this already in your speech. We don't really know. Yeah, I mean, that's what's frustrating Anissa Meksen, right? It's a weird situation. I don't know. I have my own thoughts on it. I think they should have done this fight.
I think everyone's got theories, but I just don't think it's fair to blame Janet. It seems like it's
not fair to blame Janet at all. I think if one said, "Hey, Janet, you're defending the belt against Anissa Meksen," she would do it. And if she wins this Muay Thai title, and then they say, "All right, you're going to fight Anissa next," she'll say, "Okay, sure." I think that's it. I don't think she's scared. That's the narrative. I don't think she's running. Because then one could turn around and say, "All right, well, we're going to create an interim belt." They like to do that. And why not have Anissa have an interim belt, and then you build up that match, because Anissa's got a big fan base.
Definitely.
All right. Do you guys train martial arts? I did a few weeks of jiu-jitsu in Phuket, but I haven't since I got back. I'm going to blame the staph infection I had in my
That's
leg.
a pretty good excuse, man.
Yeah, but it's nearly healed fully, so I'm going to have to actually get back into it. Tom does a lot of boxing, and he's done some Muay Thai, I think, right?
Yeah, I started with Muay Thai. I did like Muay Thai for 3-4 years on and off. I used to be the manager at an MMA gym in Ottawa where I live. So when I worked there, I was training most days. It was awesome. But then after that, I got lazy for a couple of years, didn't train much. And then over the last couple of years, I've been boxing a couple of times a week, which I really like because no disrespect to boxers in the sweet science, but I find it's a little bit easier than Muay Thai. It's easier for my brain to understand, and it's certainly easier than jiu-jitsu, which I've tried, and it just makes my head spin. That's definitely not for me.
Yeah, I'm doing some strength and conditioning. I did a lot of that in Bangtao with Woody, Andrew Wood, absolute incredible coach, world class fitness coach, and Shah Yadar. She is also incredible coach, and she's actually helping me. She gave me a program to follow here. Shout out to Shah if she's watching. Thank you so much. Sort of have to flail about on my own in the gym though. It's not as fun when you've got 10 people with you and the coaches to help you. But I do my best. So I've been doing that kind of 5 times a week since I got out of quarantine. Or trying my best to get 5 times a week in. I had a few issues like the staph infection and was violently food poisoned recently. But anyway, tangents. Okay. We have to go. Sorry, I don't want to leave you all, but I have to go. It's getting late. Aiden, quickly. Who do you think will win the flyweight Muay Thai semis? I think Rod Tang and God, I can't remember.
Superlek.
Superlek and Rod. Yeah, and I think Superlek might even beat Rod Tang. That's the chat. That's the talk. Man. We went into it on depth in our last one, didn't we? Our recap of that show. But well, look, let's do this again. We'll come back, guys, and we'll talk with you all next week. We'll try and fix a date we can do every week.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We'll definitely do a fight companion for 1159, but it's just a long way away. So, I don't even know when it is.
July 22nd, a month.
There we go.
Yeah.
Tom's on the ball.
Yeah.
I'm not. So in lieu of that, we'll try and do at least one a week of these things. And if there's any big breaking news around one, and I expect there might be over the next few weeks with fight announcements, we'll try and jump on and do some breaking news stuff. Tom and I have sort of aligned our work schedules so that when Tom's waking up, I'm sort of still got a few hours left. I'm doing late shifts now, so we'll try and cross over a bit and do some more podcasts because I enjoy them. And we'll see if we can't get any of the gang back together.
Hell yeah.
But we've got to wrap it up there. So Tom, thank you. And tell everyone where they can find you and what you got coming up.
Well, you can find me right there. Well, I can't do this. Right there. That's where I am on Twitter and all those things. What I got coming up is just more interviews on SCMP martial arts. I'll have 2 dropping later today. I won't say who they are. Not huge stars, but interesting people with interesting things coming up. So stay tuned for those. And then I got a bunch of interviews set up next week with some big names, a couple of champions. So stay tuned for those as well.
Oh, my man Tanley has shared our story on Facebook as well. Thank you, Tanley. Always helps. Get us out there, everyone. If you're watching this, go spread the word. Share the link to our story with all the news from tonight. scmp.com/MMA. The reports there. Big news. One Championship is back with a double header in August. Tanley against Tang Kai will headline the Friday night show. And then, there's going to be a lot of fight announcements I'm anticipating over the next month or so. Good to see one back in business after a bit of a drought. Okay, that is it. I will leave you all. I'll say good night. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Like and subscribe.